Honorable Men Discord. Conway the Machine removed the Griselda poster from the stage before performing. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is a short clip that I have queued up beside me. It's of a performance that Conway the Machine recently had. And I'm just going to play it and I'm going to talk about it. So let's get into it.
Machine, bitch! All right, now we ready.
All right, so what's important to note is that picture that he removed from the stage was of all three members of Griselda, which was Westside Gunn, Benny the Butcher, and Conway the Machine. Now, I noticed when he picked it up, there was a photo of himself. Let me just play this one more time. Right, you see behind his leg, there's a photo of himself, and he grabs the photo of all three of the members from Griselda, and he removes that from the stage and he flings it.
Machine, bitch! All right, now we ready.
All right, so at the time of this recording, I went to the social media for each and every one of them. So let's start with him. So Conway the Machine, his Instagram, I went through all his photos, and I want to say towards the very end of his photos, I saw a photo he had up with him and Benny the Butcher from maybe like an old photo shoot or whatever, an old event. But outside of that, I didn't see photos with any of the members of Griselda, right? So then I went to Benny the Butcher. Benny the Butcher's page, his Instagram, did not have any photos of any other members of Griselda. It was just his own photos. Then I went to Westside Gunn's Instagram. Same thing. He didn't have any photos of any of the members. Now, this is all speculation, but it's speculation based on what Conway just did. I think it's clear. I think it's safe to say that all the members are focused on their own brands. All right. They came into the industry under the Griselda brand, which I believe was put together by Westside Gunn. And they came into the game super talented. Each individual had their own skill set and ability to stand on their own. And in the moment they were able to branch out, that's exactly what happened. They decided to branch out. Now, we know that Westside Gunn is still pushing Griselda. He's still pushing that brand. Benny the Butcher he's been moved on. He pretty much moved on early on and was pushing the BSF, the Black Soprano family. And he also brought out other people under that brand. And Conway the Machine has been pushing Drumworks. All right. And I looked back at Conway the Machine's discography, and all of his projects, from what I saw, said Drumworks. I had thought some of his projects, his earlier projects, came out under Griselda, but I don't see that. Now, I don't know if they did at one point and then he changed it, but when I went onto iTunes, right, and I'm on iTunes right now, the first project I see from 2014 is called Fiscal Therapy, right? And Fiscal Therapy, when I go to the bottom, it says Drumwork Music, which that was in 2014. It said Drumworks Music. And his last project in 2025, which I love the project, You Can't Kill God with Bullets, that came out under Drumwork Music Group, LLC. So I guess he changed the wording of it, but it's been Drumwork all the way through. I didn't see anything under Griselda. All right. Now, let me just take out Benny the Butcher for the sake of this interview. And here's the thing. And There's always going to be an exception to the rule to what I'm about to say, but groups just don't work. They don't work. It's always going to be good in the beginning, but they don't work for a number of reasons. I'm about to get into those reasons in just a moment. I just want to see if Benny the Butcher came up with anything that was under Griselda. Yes, he did. His 2020 album that I like, Burden of Proof, was Griselda / Empire. So Benny the Butcher has had projects under Griselda. All right. He even had Tana Talk 3, right? Griselda. And I'm not going to go through all of his stuff because he has quite a few things here. He has some things under Black Soprano Family, which is his own imprint, which is now what he's pushing heavy, right? Let me see. His last project that he put out, Black Soprano Family. That was Benny the Butcher, OG Ron C, and Black Soprano Family. Yeah, so for Conway, I didn't see anything that was under Griselda. But here's the thing. We could look at this one of two ways. We could look at it as, three men who came into the game with a plan, they executed, and now they branched off to do their own thing, right? That's one way to look at it, that there was a mutual understanding between the three members. Or we could look at it like something went wrong and now they no longer deal with one another, right? And I can only speculate again based on Conway doing that. Why would he go out of his way to remove the photo of all three of them and then say, now we can start or now we can begin? Why would that be necessary to make that public display? Because he knew cameras would be on him and he knew this would hit social media. It's not like you do something like this and you don't think it's not going to make it to social media. So what exactly is going on in Griselda, right? And I do not have that answer for you, which is why I could only assume that it's probably a money issue. And let me get to the points that I was about to make about why groups don't work. And this is for those of you aspiring artists. All right, even if you're not an aspiring artist, here's why groups don't work. And I'm going to incorporate myself in this. From a long time ago in my personal music career, I told myself a long time ago I didn't want to be a part of a group. Why? Because like anything else, let's take this to fitness. For those of you men that are into fitness and you have a gym partner, there's always going to be a point in time where that person either is late, they're not consistent, or they lose interest. And when you get used to a routine, when you get used to a system, it just messes up your frequency. And this is why I'm not a big fan of groups. Now, that doesn't mean I don't enjoy music that came from groups. I'm a big fan of Mobb Deep. I was a big fan of Tribe Called Quest. I was a big fan of R&B groups, Jodeci, Boys to Men, so on and so forth. But in all the names I've mentioned, and we can go on and on, we could even take it to contemporary groups, there's always going to be a point in time where either one of the members feels they're bigger than the other members, and the group dissipates because of that reason, or it's a money issue where members are disputing over money and percentage, right? And that's why I'm not a fan of groups. It wouldn't even matter what the problem is with Griselda and why Conway removed the image. This is why I'm just not a fan of groups. This is why I personally decided a long time ago I wanted to be a solo act, because I did not want to get used to going to the studio with someone and then one day that person's like, oh, I can't make it today for whatever reason, even if it was a legitimate reason. This is why I advise anyone who's an artist of any kind, even if you're a videographer, do it on your own. Let yourself be the reason why you decide you're not going to work on any particular day. Don't ever let it be someone else or don't ever put yourself in a situation where someone's going to feel as though they're not getting their cut, or they're just jealous of the fact that maybe people gravitate to you, because that happens in groups also. Sometimes within groups, jealousy it may not have started off from a point of jealousy, but sometimes the fans start to say things in social media, and the band members see these things. Fans start saying, oh, this is the best one out the group, this one's carrying the group, this one dresses better than the other two in the group. All those type of things messes up the dynamic of the groups. And you might say I'm just reaching, but really think about it. Consider all the groups that you've grown up listening to, and ask yourself, what were the reasons why those groups didn't stay together? What were the reasons why those groups split apart? Right? And we're not talking about when members pass away from unfortunate events. We're not talking about that. That's not the reason not to form a group. All I'm trying to say is that groups, I want to say 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, they don't sustain longevity. Perfect example, Destiny's Child. Perfect example, the Supremes. All right, I know I went all the way back, but Destiny's Child. Destiny's Child, as a matter of fact, at one point in time, they swapped out women. They swapped out vocalists. And I don't know all their names, aside from Beyonce, but they swapped out, right? There's always going to be some type of gripe within the group. And these type of things is disgusting to see, but I'm personally not surprised by this type of stuff. Because again, in groups, these things always happen. It always starts off like a great plan when everyone's grinding. You don't have that much money, but once the money's brought onto the table, things start to get a little bit dicey. All right, things go sour, and it doesn't matter how much history you have with the members of the group. Things go left, and then you have displays like this. You would think with history, you can talk it out as men off camera and figure things out. They don't have to be together for the rest of their career. They're equally all talented. Westside Gunn, talented on the mic, but more talented with his fashion. I think he's more interested in his fashion. I think he would say so also. And he's also involved in his wrestling brand that he's trying to heavily promote. And I covered that on the older episode. Conway the Machine, he's doing what he's always set out to do, and that's to be recognized for his lyricism. And same thing with Benny the Butcher. They're both strong lyricists, and for that reason, they want to stand on their own to show dominance when it comes to lyrics. And there's nothing wrong with that. All right, I don't think Conway the Machine really cares to push drum works beyond his own music, his own catalog. I think he's just doing drum works for himself, whereas Benny the Butcher seems like he's trying to build BSF the same way Westside Gunn put together Griselda. But with that being said, I think the takeaway from this is just, if you're going into anything creatively that involves more than yourself, really weigh things out. And I know you might say, well, my partner and I are best friends. It would never happen. There would never be a split. We're determined. Listen, trust me, it starts off nice in the beginning. All right? It starts off like a plan, but things happen. People get in relationships, and that splits up the group sometimes also. Especially if the relationship that the person that you're partnered up with causes you not to be as consistent as you used to be when you weren't in a relationship. All right? And jealousy does seek in. It does slip through. Jealousy slips through, and then the next thing you know, you might be jealous of your partner's contribution to whatever it is that you got going. And so you might be asking me, what's the solution? The solution, I believe, is to, if you can, depending on what venture you're venturing off into, the solution is to do it by yourself and outsource whatever services you need from other talented individuals that could help you with your projects. But to go into anything with the group and thinking that the group is going to stay together and it's going to sustain time, it's not. It's not. And again, there are some exceptions to the rules, but not many. And if there are exceptions, I'd like to hear about those exceptions in the comment section. But for the most part, groups never work out. Groups never work out. Not for a long time, they don't. Never work out. I don't care if it's on an executive level, and I don't care if it's at a low level. So here we're talking about music. So even when you think about record labels and why they broke apart, think about it. Record labels are a little bit different because some of them sold the record labels to other companies or other people. But when we talk in groups, they don't work. They don't work. They just don't work. But listen, that's all I have on this. As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. What's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on Conway doing that? Do you think he's right for doing that? Why do you think he did that? Do you think he did that only because it's his show and he doesn't want to promote Griselda when he is performing for himself and he's representing his brand, Drumworks? Maybe it's just as simple as that. But again, I'm seeing their pages. They don't even have photos of themselves together. And I know they're doing their own thing, but they could still be supporting one another and showing up to different venues with each other. There's no reason why they don't have photos of one another on their pages. I don't see that as a coincidence, by the way, that they don't have photos of one another on their respected pages. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's intentional. But that's just what I see. That's just my take on it as an outsider. What's yours? As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, stay honorable.